Good afternoon. The fifth session of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development is called to order. I invite the Commission to resume its general discussion under Agenda Item 3A and B. Before giving the floor to the first speaker, I would like to remind delegations that inscription in the list of speakers on e-delegate will close at 6 p.m. this afternoon. I would also like to remind delegations to respect the agreed time limits of 5 minutes for member states speaking in their national capacity, 3 minutes for intergovernmental organizations and United Nations system entities. A digital speech timer is visible on the screen to assist the speakers in managing their time. I wish to recommend that delegations refer intermittently to the updated live list of speakers in the e-speakers module, so that they are ready to speak when given the floor. I thank you for your understanding and cooperation. I now give the floor to the representative, to His Excellency Antonio Sanguino, Minister of Labor of Colombia.
Señora Presidenta.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, Chair, Colombia welcomes the convening of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development. We reaffirm that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including abject poverty, is the greatest global challenge and a prerequisite for sustainable development. Our country is convinced that multilateralism is the ideal forum for efforts designed to eradicate poverty, particularly in developing countries, and in order to move towards care and support systems that have universal coverage, systems which can guarantee the full exercise of all rights and a dignified life for all persons. In line with our foreign policy, Colombia reaffirms that eradicating poverty and developing social development systems which are fairer requires a transformative approach, one which recognizes structural gender-based inequalities which are both intersectional and territorial in nature. Poverty disproportionately affects women, girls, care persons and other historically marginalized groups, and that fact demands integrated responses based on human rights, equity and social justice. Achieving these goals means identifying and tackling structural barriers which hinder or slow the implementation of policies designed to ensure development and social justice. More specifically, policies in order to overcome challenges related to institutional synergies and link-ups both between states and within them. These barriers continue to restrict governments' ability to effectively respond to and meet the needs of their most vulnerable people. Against that backdrop, Colombia is of the view that it is of the utmost importance to ratchet up multilateral commitments that will make it possible to make progress with achieving Agenda 2030. We should root our efforts in existing institutional frameworks, including the Doha Declaration from the World Social Summit. Colombia is convinced of the importance of championing multilateral efforts and of working together towards a shared agenda of inclusion and sustainability, one designed to guarantee growth, prosperity, and the well-being of all on the basis of equity and inclusion, in line with the principle of leaving no one behind. The social and gender-based redistribution of care work, historically unpaid care work, that has overwhelmingly always been done by women, is vital to narrow gaps, to promote economic empowerment and autonomy, and guarantee collective well-being, particularly that of the most vulnerable strata of our society. With that in mind, Colombia welcomes and supports the recommendations made by the Secretary-General. These recommendations underscore the urgent need to have coordinated, equitable and inclusive public policies. They also underscore the need to strengthen care systems and systems of resilient support as prerequisites for the eradication of poverty and for guaranteeing human dignity. We agree that it is only through comprehensive, integrated approaches based on human rights, social investment, and shared responsibility that it will be possible to reduce structural inequalities, strengthen social cohesion, and guarantee sustainable results over time. As such, Colombia appeals to member states and the international community to align their normative frameworks as well as their institutional and financial frameworks with these recommendations. They must step up multilateral cooperation and collective action in line with Agenda 2030 and the commitment to leave no one behind. The country has enshrined decent work in its agenda to overcome multidimensional poverty and also to close social gaps and to move towards gender equality, recognizing the key role it plays in the building of fairer, more inclusive and resilient societies. Under our administration, Colombia has created more than 2 million jobs, and we've therefore ushered in a positive trend in the labour market, and we've seen the lowest ever rate of unemployment. It was 8% in December 25. In terms of wages, we've gone from the concept of a minimum wage to a life-sustaining wage. Between 2023 and 2026, that basic wage increased to the tune of 60%, and that has allowed the purchasing power of more than 2.4 million homes to increase. Moreover, with our labour reforms, we have continue with the formalization of labour and increase social protection. These job creation progress, as well as progress with improving real income and economic performance, mean that now we need to strengthen public policies which incorporate care services as a pillar of our productive and social systems. For Colombia, guaranteeing that we have care systems with clear mandates, appropriate information, and sustainable financing mechanisms, as well as proper synergies across relevant institutions, is not only a tool for social and gender-based justice, but rather a prerequisite to sustain the achievements in our labour market, narrow structural gaps, and make effective progress in eradicating poverty. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Labor of Colombia, and I now give the floor to His Excellency Andrei Pudov, Deputy Minister of Labor and Social Protection of the Russian Federation.
Уважаемый госпожа председатель,
Distinguished Chair, distinguished colleagues, the topic we're discussing today is extremely relevant for all countries of the UN. These challenges that we are facing in the social sphere require extremely timely, clear, and harmonized action to make decisions that will directly facilitate improving well-being and improving quality of life of our people. It's important to once again highlight our dedication to the fundamental documents in this area, which remain as pertinent as ever. First of all, the Copenhagen Declaration of Social Development, 1995 Program of Action, and decisions of the 24th session of the General Assembly of the UN. The Doha Political Declaration of 2025 is a continuation of these foundations laid more than 30 years ago. The Russian Federation is a social state with policies aiming to create conditions for decent life and free human development. We'd like to note that from time immemorial in Russia, our main values have been fairness, care for family and loved ones, and respect for the elderly. Over the centuries, our people have maintained these values of holy roots. They help us strengthen family bonds and raise our children and inculcate in them important moral and ethical values. We have a number of social programs aimed at stimulating the birth rate, supporting employment, increasing incomes and salaries, supporting the elderly, and supporting with disabilities. Supporting families with regard to childbirth and child rearing is one of the main priorities for our government. In Russia, thanks to the initiatives of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, we have a comprehensive system to support families. After childbirth, families receive maternal subsidies, and there is a unified subsidy provided for children and pregnant women. As our President said, Supporting strong, healthy, multi-child families is our absolute strategic priority. That is an issue of the future of Russia. The government is carrying out federal projects on professional training and additional professional education for certain categories of citizens. Last year, we provided this training to 120,000 people, and the share of those employed after this training was 81.2%. Increasing the minimum wage is also very important. Through presidential instructions, we have been accelerating the minimum wage increase, and this year it increased by 20.7%. Over the last few years in Russia, we have been implementing a broad range of measures to support employment of persons with disabilities. One of the main mechanisms of supporting this category of citizens is establishing quotas for hiring of persons with disabilities. In Russia, we've continued to implement the plan of action to develop in Russia a system of comprehensive rehabilitation and habilitation of persons with disabilities. The result of this will be the transition by 2030 of all rehabilitation organizations toward a single set of standards for providing services. Last year, we adopted our strategy of action for older persons in the Russian Federation by 2030, as well as a plan for implementation. One of the priorities of state policy is ensuring sustainable increases in the pension system. We are regularly indexing these pensions. Since the beginning of this year, the pensions have increased by 7.6%, and the next indexation will take place on April 1st. We have a pilot project in Russia through a system of long-term care. Last year, this long-term care system covered about 174,000 people. In Russia, every year we carry out an indexation of social subsidies and benefits so it's not below inflation. Since February 1st of this year, we have indexed more than 40 forms of payment by 5.6%. This decision is covering 22 million people in Russia. As a result of the initiative on the social treasury, we have improved our support measures and made them more accessible. Subsidies and payments can be made to citizens without them making an application. We are assessing needs and payment amounts based on applications online. In conclusion, I'd like to note that despite the unprecedented sanctions pressure, Russia has always been and will continue to defend its own interests, and this means defending our people first and foremost. Social protection of our citizens remains and will always be the main priority of all bodies of the Russian government. We believe that sharing experiences can help us make social experiences in our countries more improved and better for our people. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Minister of Labor and Social Protection of the Russian Federation, and I now give the floor to His Excellency Chris Elmore, Minister of State for Multilateral Human Rights, Latin America and the Caribbean of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland.
Chair, Excellencies, it was a privilege to be in Doha with many of you last year when we adopted our declaration, renewing our shared ambition to end poverty, create decent work and ensure everyone can take part in society. A lot has changed since the world first set out that vision in Copenhagen 30 years ago. More than 1 billion people have been lifted out of extreme poverty, more children completing school, wider access to healthcare, clean water and electricity, and real progress on rights and inclusion. But we also know how that progress can stall when systems fail to keep pace with rising needs and growing economies. So we must raise our efforts, focusing on those who face the greatest risks, and I will focus on 3 priorities. First, strong social protection systems that shield families from the worst effects of conflict and climate change and give people the means to recover and rebuild. The UK will continue backing countries to develop resilient long-term safety nets. These tackle poverty and hunger and enable support to reach those who need it most when disasters strike. Second, creating decent jobs and economic growth, the best route out of poverty. Too many talented young people, especially in lower-income countries, are struggling to find opportunities. We will keep working with partners to boost growth, create good jobs, and ensure equal opportunities, particularly for women and marginalised groups. This includes supporting cooperatives, a model first formed in the UK nearly 200 years ago, which continues to change lives today. We will also back efforts to build simpler, fairer global development system using our investments, technical expertise and long-term partnerships to strengthen national systems and spark growth. Third, we will advance equality and rights with real determination. Women and girls, people with disabilities and LGBT plus people must be able to live free from fear and shape their societies on equal terms. The UK has declared violence against women and girls a national emergency, and our Foreign Secretary has made clear it is an international emergency too. We will deepen our work with partners, survivors and frontline organisations to support those on the front line. As we look to the future, the UK is determined to play our part in reducing poverty, supporting those facing the toughest conditions and helping countries build resilience. I look forward to hearing views today and working with you on next steps. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of State for Multilateral Human Rights, Latin America and the Caribbean of the United Kingdom. And I now give the floor to Her Excellency Martha Nguira, Deputy Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare of Malawi.
Chairperson, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is an honor and privilege to address these 64 sessions of the Commissioner for Social Development on behalf of the Government of the Republic of Malawi. This year's theme, Advancing Social Development and Social Justice through Coordinated, Equitable and Inclusive Policy, strongly equals with Malawians' national agenda to strengthen social protection systems, protecting inclusive growth to safeguard the well-being of all our people. It comes at a critical moment as Malawi is dealing with poverty, discrimination and vulnerability, while building resilience against economy and climate shock. Malawi recently adopted the National Social Protection Policy 2024 to 2029 in order to expand coverage and improving resilience across the life course to ensure strength and vulnerability. We have embarked on developing a comprehensive and legal framework to support social protection in law and strengthening the social security policy priorities areas, ensuring that protection is inclusive and caring to the needs of a citizen. Chairperson, Malawi is implementing the Community Economy Empowerment Resilience Livestock Program under the National Social Protection Policy 2024 to 2029 in order to promote financing inclusion and resilience livelihoods which contribute to poverty reduction. Through this program, communities are mobilized into savings and loan groups trained in groups management, equipped with business and skills to support the training business groups into cooperative. In addition, we are empowering women and girls from vulnerable households, recognizing the social laws and inclusive development. Chairperson, the Malawi Social Cash Transfer Program remains our flagship social assistance mechanism and has made it gain in reducing poverty. It is improving food security, social attendance, and access to health services to the most vulnerable household, while increasing the capacity to withstand shock. However, sustainability remains a challenge due to reducing external financing, in highlighting the needs for strengthened domestic resources, mobilization, and continued partnership. Recognizing that cash transfers alone are enough, Malawi is strengthening coordinating between the social protection and others, service in health, education, livelihoods, and economic and social inclusion. Pilot refill systems are coordinated structures are already demonstrating progress towards integrated service delivery, which we aim to scale up with mechanism and impact equity. Chairperson, Malawi also reaffirms that decent work, skills development, and social protection are fundamental and advancing social justice. As a leading country under the National Global International Accelerator on Job and Social Protection are just changes. Malawi is strengthening coordinating responsible for labor market change, including high youth and women who are jobless, and widespread informal employment. labor law, pensions reforms, and lifelong learnings are central to these effects. Chairperson, to make sure that no one is left behind, Malawi is rolling out a disability trust fund to reduce inequalities faced by a person with a disability to access services. We are also financing the National Action Plan for a person with albinism, and we have passed the Elder Person Act of 2024 to promote the rights and dignity of a senior citizen. Local councils are a favor strengthening inclusion through dedicated officers responsible for disability and elders affairs. Chairperson, despite progress, Malawi continues to face significant socio-economic challenges. 75% of Malawians live no less than $3 a day, and poverty affects near 59% of a population in rural areas. Furthermore, frequently climate-induced disaster and financial challenges continue to challenge implementation of our social development agenda. Malawi is therefore enhancing shocked responsive program, scaling up social protection coverage, and strengthening policy unity through outgoing reforms. We are all implementing transformative intervention and intervention to create livelihoods and strengthen household resilience. However, we recognize that achieving this aspiration required strength, joint and cooperation. We as a community, we committed towards partnership and invest as we pursue this initiative. We remain committed to advancing social development and social justice for all and fostering coordinated action and policy reforms that leave no one behind. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Deputy Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare of Malawi, and I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ilona Havronska, Deputy Minister of Social Policy, Family and Unity of Ukraine.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as we engage in this discussion, Ukraine is enduring another wave of massive strikes against our energy infrastructure. At this very moment, millions of people in my country are without electricity, heat, and often water in the depths of winter. In such conditions, social justice takes on starkly practical meaning. It is the fundamental right to warmth, the right to a functional connection to call for help, and the certainty the state will stand by its citizens even in the darkest hours. Today, Ukraine is operationalizing the vision through three strategic pillars: coordination and transformation of the support system. True social justice requires policies that are rapid, coordinated, and financially sustainable. To achieve this, Ukraine has the Humanitarian and Social Protection Account. This dedicated mechanism allows us to bridge the gap between immediate international humanitarian aid and our national social protection system. By channeling resources through this account, we ensure that the vital needs of our most vulnerable people are met with total transparency and predictability. It transforms energy support in a reliable lifeline, ensuring that over 10 million people receive assistance without interruption, even in the most violent conditions. Equitable access through digital innovation. When physical infrastructure is under fire, digitalization becomes a vital tool for survival. Ukraine provides access to social services through a single digital window that operates autonomously. This is inclusion by design, where technology serves as the ultimate guarantor of justice, dismantling the barriers created by the destruction of our cities. Inclusive recovery and human capital. For Ukraine, social justice means investing in the resilience of every individual. Our network of resilience centers has become a system of islands of safety, spaces where people find not only physical warmth but psychological support and a sense of community. We measure our success by our ability to preserve the nation's mental health and ensure recovery where the human being remains the absolute center of focus. Social justice is not a luxury for times of peace. It is a right We must keep burning even under fire. Ukraine's experience proves that coordinated and inclusive policies are the most powerful response to any aggression. We firmly believe that our shared commitment to human development, inclusion, and dignity is the force capable to overcoming any terror and binding a just and resilient world. I thank you, and Slava Ukraini.
I thank the Deputy Minister of Social Policy, Family and Unity of Ukraine, and I now give the floor to the representative of Switzerland.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Switzerland firmly believes that social development and social justice cannot be achieved without coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies designed in consultation with those directly affected by them. The Doha Political Declaration, adopted by consensus at the Second World Summit for Social Development, reminds us that participation, social dialogue, and inclusion are essential conditions for building fair and resilient societies. As the Secretary General also pointed out in his report, giving a voice to those most affected is the only guarantee of legitimacy, effectiveness, and lasting support for public policies. Allow me to share with you 3 key insights from Switzerland's experience. First, citizen participation as an institutional foundation. In Switzerland, direct democracy gives citizens a genuine role as co-legislators. Through popular initiatives, they can propose constitutional amendments, and through referendums, they can vote on laws passed by Parliament. This system encourages the authorities to seek balanced solutions at an early stage and to coordinate social policies in an inclusive manner, thereby strengthening social cohesion and trust in institutions. Secondly, concrete mechanisms to include those who are often absent from decision-making processes. Participation cannot be limited to formal mechanisms. Innovative forms are needed to include those who, due to poverty, age, disability, migration, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other factors of marginalization, remain distant from traditional democratic processes. In Switzerland, the National Platform Against Poverty, which promotes the active participation of those affected through various models, ranging from simple information to co-decision making, plans to create a sustainable participatory structure for people with experience of poverty. In addition, cantons and municipalities are developing participatory approaches in areas such as aging and social inclusion, contributing to more equitable and better targeted policies. Thirdly, the conditions for success. Credible participation is based on 3 essential principles. Honesty, so that consultation is neither an alibi nor a symbolic exercise. Freedom of expression, as dialogue does not mean neutralizing dissent. Truthfulness, to preserve the trust and legitimacy of institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, governments are not alone. Civil society is teeming with ideas. Those affected are ready to talk about their situation, and there are some very promising experiences at the local level. Finally, governments can count on the United Nations to improve their capacities and to draw inspiration from international best practices. The implementation of the 2030 Agenda provides a unique strategic framework for establishing participatory processes that promote sustainable social development, social justice for all. It is possible to produce coordinated policies that are both equitable and inclusive, provided that genuine dialogue is pursued and respect for lived experience is ensured. This will strengthen legitimacy and sustainability of policies. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of Switzerland, and I now give the floor to the representative of Germany.
Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, first of all, thank you for your dedicated work. Germany aligns itself with the statement delivered by the European Union. The 2030 Agenda is our roadmap for building a more just, inclusive, equitable, and sustainable world. We are living in a time of profound change. Around the world, social cohesion, social security systems, and public trust in government and global institutions are under pressure. Poverty, inequality, and global crises have a compounding effect, hitting the most vulnerable hardest. That is precisely why social development is not an abstract goal, but a concrete obligation towards every human being. The Doha Declaration marks a milestone, also for multilateralism, to which Germany is firmly committed. We must now work together to seize this momentum with determination. Let us build on what we achieved at the World Social Summit. We do have the clear mandate to act now and to make a difference, each and every one of us in our own spheres of influence. Governments are responsible for creating a reliable framework for strong social security systems and for protecting human rights. Civil society, social partners, local communities, and private investors are equally essential. Effective interaction between all stakeholders is valuable to inspire new ideas and collaboration, for example, on the Doha Solutions platform. Universal social rights mean that children have prospects for their future. Women have equal rights. People with disabilities and older people can live a life in dignity. Work provides financial security, and societies stand together. Education plays a key role in promoting social cohesion and keeping our democracies resilient and future-proofed. Distinguished delegates, how can we achieve this? By encouraging and empowering young people to get involved, to participate and shape our common future, not tomorrow, but today. In this spirit, I'm pleased to hand over to our committed youth delegates, Sahra and Danya, in just a moment. But before that, I'd like to thank our oldest delegation member. Renate, 88 years old, is here with us to underline the importance of intergenerational solidarity. So, across generations, let me assure you, Germany is looking forward to fruitful discussions, many synergies, and new opportunities to collaborate. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Chair. We speak here today as Germany's UN Youth delegates, two voices from a generation already taking responsibility. In our communities, in movements, online and offline, standing up for inclusion, equality, and social justice. And yet, not enough young people are in this room. Our lived realities are missing in these debates. UN resolutions and discussions feel distant, abstract, and disconnected from the realities they are meant to address, even though their topics revolve around our daily lives. Can I afford my rent? Can I access education, healthcare, and online spaces equally? And will tomorrow be better than today? These questions do not exist in isolation. They're shaped by what we see in our timelines every day. Kurdish children being denied social inclusion, Afghan girls being systematically excluded from education, or homelessness rising in wealthy countries like Germany. All of this fuels disbelief that institutions will protect us and that commitments apply equally.
We need concrete policies, national commitment, and measurable action. Credibility begins outside of this conference room, turning global commitments into improved lived reality. And that work must be guided by accountability, equity, and participation, meaning measurable indicators, sustainable financing, and accessible decision-making processes. Social justice is not achieved through declarations alone. So if each of you leaves this commission with one concrete idea, one new partnership, one renewed commitment to implementation, then you are not only doing what young people around the world do every day. You are restoring trust, you are confronting disbelief, and you are bringing this institution closer to keeping its promise. Because social justice is not a future goal, it is a present responsibility. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Germany and youth delegates from Germany. I now give the floor to the representative of Thailand.
Madam Chair, Excellency, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the loyal Thai government, I'm honored to address the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development as member of the CSocD. Excellency, this session, the first after the Doha Summit, provides a crucial opportunity to review progress and to renew our commitment to the Copenhagen Declaration and Doha Political Declaration and the 24th Special Session of the UN General Assembly. This commitment serves as the foundation for our social development policy. Thailand believes that the priority theme is timely and requires three interconnected responses. First, cross-sector coordination. Thailand employs a whole of government approach to social development through our 30 national economic and social development plan. Our implementation of the CRPD, the World Programme of Action for Youth, the Matrix International Plans of Action on Aging, and Family Support Policy reflect this is integrated approach. Thailand also focused on coordination through intergenerational solidarity, guided by the principle of family first. Thailand views intergenerational solidarities as the foundation for care, resilience, and social cohesion. Under the Ministry of Social Development and Human Security, Closer to You initiatives, household burden are relieved, jobs are created, and vulnerable groups set stronger social support. Under the ศูนย์ร่วมสุข or Share Happiness Center model, government and partner agencies collaborate on integrated service to promote livelihood, strengthen social economic, and reinforce family and community ties. Second, promoting equities through target support and digital inclusion. Thailand data-driven mechanisms identify vulnerable households and reduce their financial burden. In line with the CRPD, reform to disable law, ensure access to social protection and service. Thailand also prioritizes digital learning for youth and the vulnerable to ensure protection from online harm. Third, Thailand's advanced social inclusion through a right-cost approach, responding to demographic change, population aging, and developing care needs. We continue to expand universal health coverage to family center, children and youth council, and community care network, supported by over 10,000 community health centers, to strengthen inclusive care systems, improve access in underserved areas, and uphold dignity for people of all ages. Excellency, Thailand reaffirms its commitment to translate the frameworks into concrete national and local action. We look forward to exchanging experience and working with our partners to advance social development that is inclusive, equitable, and grounded in human dignity for all. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Thailand, and I now give the floor to the representative of South Africa.
Madam Chairperson, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, South Africa congratulates you, Madam Chairperson, and the Bureau on your election and reaffirms its commitment to advancing social development, social justice, and inclusive growth. We join this session having successfully held the G20 presidency in 2025, and this theme resonates well with the work South Africa advanced during the G20. We welcome the priority theme, advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies. And we reaffirm our support for the implementation of the Doha Political Declaration. Madam Chair, South Africa is a constitutional democracy, and our constitution anchors our commitment to dignity, equality, and inclusion. Our integrated social protection systems address poverty, inequality, and unemployment through income support, public employment programs, early childhood development, healthcare services, and economic inclusion policies. In this regard, South Africa continues to implement various flagship programs such as the social grant system that covers over 27 million beneficiaries out of a total population of 63 million. In addition, we provide free basic services to millions of children, particularly basic education for every child from a poor household, supplemented by a comprehensive primary school nutrition program covering 9 million children. In addition, we provide free primary health care to all children and older persons. Furthermore, our Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, launched in 2020, is a major government initiative that has provided more than 1.5 million jobs and livelihood support opportunities for citizens. It focuses on rapid public employment, youth training, and sector-specific support in areas such as arts and culture, as an example, to counteract the slow economic growth that we have experienced over the years. South Africa has a comprehensive community service program which further focuses on localized, accessible support through ward-based primary healthcare outreach teams, child and youth care workers, and mobile clinics, especially for those areas that are far-flung from the main cities. These services, often supported in partnership with NGOs, provide comprehensive mental health care, HIV care, education, and social support to vulnerable communities. For instance, the outreach program, the outreach teams consisting of nurses and community health workers are the cornerstone of primary health care in the country, focusing on household-level care. The child and youth care workers offer psychosocial support, HIV/AIDS care, and education support to vulnerable youth. These programs were mostly supported through international aid, which was halted in 2025, not giving us adequate time to reimagine service delivery in the absence of these critical funds that we were receiving. I am pleased, however, to report that we were able to continue these programs due to successful resource mobilization strategies implemented by the government. In the year 2026, we are going to continue rescaling these offerings to ensure that we do not lose the gains that we had previously achieved through these important initiatives. Madam Chair, we have been able also to provide these services even though South Africa, due to the AIDS pandemic, runs the world's largest treatment program to address the scourge. The program is in excess of $2.5 billion, of which international partners' contribution has significantly reduced to below 8%. Through this assistance, the country is able to provide services to 27 out of 52 districts, which are the most affected in the country. We emphasize the importance of accelerated implementation of the Doha Political Declaration, strengthened financial and social protection, and strengthened financing for social protection, coordinated policies, and inclusive participation. We reiterate South Africa's continued commitment to multilateral cooperation and people-centered development. I thank you.
I thank the representative of South Africa, and I now give the floor to the representative of Zambia.
The chairperson, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Zambia commends the Secretariat and the Bureau for convening this session under the priority theme, Advancing Social Development and Social Justice through Coordinated, Equitable and Inclusive Policies, which builds on the legacy of the Copenhagen Declaration and Program of Action and the Doha Political Declaration. Zambia aligns itself with the core vision of this session and with the position of the African Group that social development and social justice are foundational to sustainable development for all. We reaffirm the principle of leaving no one behind at the heart of the 2030 Agenda and the AU Agenda 2063, and recognize that equitable access to opportunities, quality services, decent work, and comprehensive social protection is central to human dignity, social cohesion, and resilience. Distinguished delegates, Zambia has undertaken deliberate and systematic policy actions to advance social equity, inclusion, and poverty reduction. These efforts are anchored in the mainstreaming of social development priorities across national planning frameworks, including Vision 2030 and successive national development plans, with a strong focus on human capital development and reducing structural inequalities. In this regard, Zambia has strengthened child protection systems through expanded social assistance, improved access to education and health services, and targeted interventions for vulnerable and at-risk children. These measures contribute to breaking intergenerational poverty and safeguarding the rights and well-being of children. In addition, Zambia has taken important steps to promote dignity, income security, and social inclusion in old age through the expansion of social assistance and community-based support systems consistent with commitments to solidarity and intergenerational justice. Further, recognizing that youth employment and empowerment are central to sustainable social development, Zambia has invested in skills development, technical and vocational education, and entrepreneurship initiatives to address unemployment and precarious work, including in the informal sector. Zambia has also strengthened interministerial coordination to ensure that social development considerations are effectively mainstreamed into economic, infrastructure, and sectoral planning. Our social protection programs continue to expand in coverage and effectiveness, supporting poverty eradication, shock responsiveness, and productive inclusion, particularly for women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Zambia further recognizes that equitable and inclusive policies must be underpinned by strong data, evidence, and effective financing for development. In this regard, Zambia supports the reforms to the international financial architecture and enhanced international cooperation for social investments. However, we acknowledge that persistent challenges remain, including unemployment, informality, inequality, and vulnerability to economic and climate shocks, which disproportionately affect African and other developing countries. Addressing these challenges requires sustained domestic efforts supported by meaningful global partnerships that respect national ownership and context-specific solutions. Excellencies, Zambia reaffirms its commitment to advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies. We stand ready to engage with member states, civil society, and development partners in pursuit of this shared agenda. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Zambia, and I now give the floor to the representative of France.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I align myself with the statement delivered on behalf of the EU and would like to add the following points in my national capacity. In light of the increasing tensions in international relations, the trampling of the most fundamental rights, and the regression of development, it is more essential than ever to reaffirm our commitment to human dignity and social progress. These principles are more than just a moral imperative. They are the catalyst for effective multilateralism. The recent Doha summit was a critical milestone in our collective efforts toward a more just and equitable world. The declaration adopted during that summit reaffirms the international community's commitment to social development and underscores the importance of our collective action to eradicate poverty, create decent jobs, and promote social inclusion. France commenced a decisive step forward and reaffirms its resolve to implement the principles and goals enshrined in the Doha Declaration in a world that has been upended by a triple transition, that is digital, demographic, and environmental. Madam Chair, human rights and collective rights, especially collective bargaining and labor rights, are the cornerstone of social development. Respect for these rights and freedoms are an obligation. They are also essential drivers for ensuring sustainable and equitable economic growth. France is convinced that social progress and economic development that are sustainable are also indelibly linked. We therefore ought to ensure that our economic and social policies are coherent and complementary at all levels to guarantee shared prosperity for all. This year, France has the honor of presiding over G7. Social development plays a crucial role within our priorities. For France, social development is one of the most important responses to the current global challenges, whether we're speaking of resolving economic imbalances or in reinventing the international solidarity framework. During its presidency over the G7, France will spare no effort to return human dignity, well-being, and social progress to the heart of the effective multilateral agenda that our people expect. France is also determined to work together with its partners to promote policies that foster social inclusion, the protection of workers' rights, and the establishment of more effective international solidarity mechanisms. We are convinced that only a comprehensive and coordinated approach will allow us to address the complex challenges of our time. It is more true than ever at a time when the emergence of AI forces us to rethink our social and economic structures. Madam Chair, in closing, allow me to reaffirm the firm commitment of France to work toward sustainable and inclusive social development in New York, Geneva, Paris, and everywhere else in the world. We call for strengthened and practical international cooperation to implement the principles of the Doha Declaration and to build a world in which everyone can enjoy the fruits of economic and social progress. Thank you.
I thank the representative of France, and I now give the floor to the representative of Paraguay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It is an honor for me to issue this statement on behalf of the Republic of Paraguay. My country values the choice of the theme for this session, and we share the common goal of working towards development and social justice. With that in mind, we underscore the principle of solidarity and international cooperation. These are enshrined in Paraguay's constitution. These should be a thrust in our efforts to promote social justice and development in accordance with the Copenhagen Declaration of 1995. That declaration placed humans at the heart of development and promoted the full participation of all. Paraguay embraced the principle of joint responsibility rooted in across various sectors of our government, the dynamism of the private sector and the active participation of civil society. It is this partnership which strengthens the essence of our social commitment. Against that backdrop, it is particularly relevant to note the importance of the coordination across social programs. As such, our presidency, under the leadership of President Peña, has established an approach for the management of social policy. And this policy encompasses many ministries. And so it becomes a strategic mechanism for effective coordination of social programs and poverty reduction. The reshuffling of this initiative has allowed a close cooperation between various institutions. Chair, Paraguay's commitment to social development is reflected clearly in its social policies. And there is sustained economic growth, poverty reduction to the tune of 20%, and the extreme poverty has been reduced to 4%. Inflation is under control, and unemployment has reached record lows. This is a result of our social policies. Our government is implementing strategic measures designed to ensure that citizens feel the benefits of macroeconomic stability at a national level in terms of their families' well-being. We have zero hunger in schools. That program entered into force in the second quarter of 2024. In record time, it achieved almost universal coverage in terms of providing school feeding to all, and that reduced poverty. It created employment, it strengthened family farming, and strengthened small and micro enterprises, and it increased take-up of education and community cohesion. Chair, we welcome the Second World Summit on Social Development, which was held in Doha in 2025. At that summit, we were able to share our models for combating poverty, as well as our programs for elder persons, conditional cash transfers to families to break the intergenerational poverty cycle, to increase land access and access to decent housing, to increase the number of workers with formal employment, and to promote the use of technological tools for young people's access to the labour market. Beyond achievements in terms of social development in Paraguay, we recognize that we still face manifold challenges which require attention and a strategic approach to be adopted. As such, we trust that we will continue to work in cooperation with the international community. To conclude, we reaffirm our commitment to development and social justice as reflected in our new development plan running till 2050. We will continue playing an increasingly pioneering role in the international arena to build more inclusive and prosperous societies. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Paraguay, and I now give the floor to the representative of Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenya aligns itself with the statement delivered by Liberia on behalf of the African group, as well as the statement delivered by Uruguay on behalf of the groups of 77 and China. We met at a pivotal moment in the first meeting of the Commission after the Second World Summit for Social Development in Doha, where we renewed our collective commitment to a people-centered development agenda. Kenya reaffirms its unwavering dedication to a people-centered agenda grounded in the principles of the Copenhagen and Doha declarations. Our approach to social development is rooted in a right-based life cycle perspective that integrates gender equality, disability inclusion, and environmental sustainability. Guided by Vision 2030 and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, we are operationalizing a framework that prioritizes the most vulnerable. In this regard, Kenya has reached a significant milestone by digitalizing the National Safety Net program. By transitioning to a secure mobile money delivery platform, we have enhanced the dignity and autonomy of more than 1.7 million beneficiaries, including older persons, persons with severe disability, and vulnerable children. This transition ensures that social support is faster, safer, and more respectful of the lived realities of our citizens. The health of our nation is the foundation of our shared prosperity. Kenya has embarked on a historic transformation through the establishment of the Social Health Authority. This reform signals a transition to a more equitable financing model, guaranteeing universal health coverage for all. Critically, the state now fully sponsors the contribution of more than 2.2 million indigent citizens. Furthermore, by deploying over 107,000 community health promoters, we have brought primary health care directly to the doorstep of every household. Education remains our most powerful driver of social mobility. Our transition to the competency-based curriculum is reorienting learning towards the skill and creativity required in a modern economy. Simultaneously, we have reformed higher education financing by introducing a need-based model. This ensures that scholarships and loans are prioritized for students from marginalized backgrounds, ensuring opportunity is determined by potential rather than circumstance. Kenya recognizes that economic empowerment drives social development, inclusion, and gender equality. We are harnessing the digital economy to create resilient livelihoods for our vibrant youth population. Through the Hustler Fund, over 27 million Kenyans have gained access to credit with more than 80 billion shillings disbursed. The Youth Enterprise Development Fund, which has reached 890,000 young people and supported 157,000 enterprises with over 5.9 billion shillings. Furthermore, the National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement project is set to empower 820,000 youths with skills on the job experience and startup grants. Parallel to these efforts, our affordable housing program is generating massive employment while providing essential shelter. Currently, more than 2,000 housing units are under construction nationwide. Distinguished delegates, the challenges of poverty and inequality require bold, coordinated action. Kenya's experience demonstrates that with constitutional backing and digital innovation, dignity and justice can become a reality for all. We stand ready to share our lessons and work together towards fulfillment of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Kenya, and I now give the floor to the representative of Panama.
Señora Presidenta.
Chair, distinguished delegates, allow me to convey to you the greetings of the Republic of Panama, the greetings of our President José Raúl Mulino, and those of the Minister for Social Development, Beatriz Carlis de Arango. We have seen that a piecemeal response to social needs increases inequalities and weakens the impact of government action. As such, our vision is one of channeling all efforts towards one single goal, the dignity of persons at all stages of life. Allow me to share with you our experience. It's focused on 4 pillars of coordinated action, action which is results-orientated and underpinned by robust budgets. Firstly, we have an aging population and we've responded with tangible actions. Our financial transfers program is called 120 at 65. It's the basis of comprehensive support. In 2024, this program transferred 177.8 million balboas to an average of 121,000 beneficiaries. We've guaranteed care and social protection for some 2,000 older persons through 287 programs in 86 national centres. We've trained 242 civil servants as community leaders. We've trained them in our public policy designed to assist older persons. We've worked with the Ministry of Culture. We've programmed visits and cultural activities in museums and art spaces for the benefit of 359 older persons. My second point, we're seeking to lay the foundations from the very beginning, family and early childhood. Social development is something whose seeds are sown in the earliest years of life. We've joined up efforts across health, nutrition, initial education and family support. We have 95 comprehensive early childcare centres. That is key to guarantee access to early childcare. We've reduced the registration fee, reduced monthly fees by 75%. That has directly benefited more than 2,000 families. We have trained 360 educators and 2,600 parents and carers in positive parenting and child development. The results are plain to see. In the latest nutritional evaluations conducted at these childcare centres, 83% of children presented normal nutritional status. This is the path to follow if we are to nip poverty cycles in the bud. My third point, we're seeking to eradicate barriers and guarantee the full inclusion of persons with disabilities. We have our Guardian Angel subsidy. Over the last year, in connection with this subsidy, 18.7 million balboas were disbursed to provide economic support to severely disabled people that are dependent and in abject poverty. That subsidy benefited some 19,000 people. Disability cannot be broached solely by one sector. It demands a coordinated state response across the board to eradicate political, attitudinal and social barriers that remain. We have an intersectoral approach that seeks to ensure that every public policy takes persons with disability into account. My fourth point, we're investing in the present and future of our youth and the demographic dividend. We're preventing teenage pregnancy in partnership with civil society organisations. In this connection, 120 young people receive sexual education and reproductive health education through our training and adolescent development centres. Some 30 families participated in workshops regarding respectful parenting, and our young people participated actively in creating the political declaration of youth in Ibero-America. This declaration champions green jobs and better investment in youth climate action. Investing in their skills is key in terms of furthering social cohesion. We have joined up efforts across many ministries and through our Social Development Council to guarantee drinking water to many people across the country. Panama reaffirms that the way to social justice involves taking firm strides with a sense of leadership, political will, and alongside institutions. Institutions must talk to each other, work in harmony, and everyone must be joined up, finance, economy and other ministries. There must be policies that recognise that people don't live their lives in a sectoral way, but comprehensively. It's vital that we leave no one behind. We wish to reiterate that we are committed to working to improve the quality of life of all and ensuring socio and economic development that is sustainable for all. They deserve it. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Panama, and I now give the floor to the representative of El Salvador.
Muchas gracias, señora.
Thank you very much, Chair. For our country, social justice is not an abstract concept. It is the real capacity of the state to reduce inequalities, broaden opportunities and protect dignity, particularly where poverty and marginalisation have historically limited access to services, quality education, dignified employment and social mobility. With that vision in mind, El Salvador is championing a social development agenda which is joined up and has economic policies designed to narrow structural gaps. As you are well aware, coordination is the key to success. However, no social policy achieved a transformative impact or can do if it is fragmented or operating in isolation. As such, we are developing an integrated model which looks to overcome piecemeal approaches at an institutional and territorial level so that our results are targeted, benefit those who most need them and ensure that everyone can move forward. We adopted this as a public policy model in 2024, and all of this is rooted in integration as a strategic bridge that can transform realities through the committed participation of our citizens, through also the efficient use of states' resources, and by developing comprehensive relations between people, communities and institutions that were previously functioning in isolation. This approach is producing concrete actions that demonstrate how social justice and development can be achieved on the ground. The culture of integration that we've fostered is allowing better understanding of the structural causes of injustice on the part of our people, and civic participation is seen as key by them in terms of building a better future. We have events that are also seeking to narrow rural and urban gaps in service provision. Rural areas are now accessing services that they previously couldn't. We have comprehensive healthcare being provided, legal advice, psychosocial support, the delivery of medicines, education. By way of a supplement to this, we have integrative initiatives which allow personal development, free training in art, sport, technology, technical skills, psychology and family rearing skills is provided. That develops individuals but also strengthens our community's social fabric. Moreover, the country recognises the social value of care and the importance of a society which encompasses all generations. We have paid internships for older persons, valuing their experience and strengthening their integration in communities and the labour market. This approach has also manifested itself as El Salvador's active participation in resolutions recently adopted at the UN designed to recognize care work and the contribution it makes to economies. These resolutions also aim to lend visibility to what's done by older people. Thanks to these efforts, we have incorporated a specific focus on elder women in relevant intergovernmental arena. We've seen them as right holders and key actors in social development. We are ushering in a historic transformation designed to guarantee that all young people that complete their basic education is able to access universities or vocational training freely and without charge. This is a positive change for our societies and is a reference point for the region. As things stand, we have 18,000 children that are completing education across 17 public and private higher education institutions. We're convinced that this effort will transform the qualities of life of young people and their families. We're also sure it will increase the country's social development. In only a few years, El Salvador will be at the forefront in terms of the size of its middle class. Many people will be pulled out of poverty, and we'll be laying the foundations for more equitable and sustainable development. With a view to ensuring all of this work is sustainable, we intend in the next few years to incorporate around 20,000 new students in these programs every year, strengthening the scope of the initiative. In issues such as dignified work and social protection, the country has made decisive progress with the implementation of its national decent job creation policy. We point here to the increase by 12% of the minimum wage in 2025. That's part of our work to increase access to decent work and substantially increase the quality of life of our working class. Lastly, El Salvador reaffirms that justice and social development will require joined-up public policies which are focused on territorial level work and on real opportunities for real people. In that vein, we call for the Commission on Social Development to be strengthened as a forum for effective consensus. We invite states to come and learn firsthand about what our country's done to reduce poverty and increase social cohesion. Thank you.
I thank the representative of El Salvador, and I now give the floor to the representative of Suriname.
Thank you, Madam President, for giving me the floor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the government of the Republic of Suriname, I express my sincere appreciation to the United Nations for an excellent opportunity to discuss the state of the world's social and economic situation globally. We also commend the leadership of the United Nations for its continuous effort to promote social and economic well-being worldwide. Madam President, achieving economic development and social justice are central to Suriname's national vision for sustainable development. Guided by our National Development Plan 2022-2026 and our Green Development Strategy and the Sustainable Development Vision of the new Simons-Rusland administration, we are implementing targeted actions to enable this. As reflected in our 2025 Voluntary National Review, poverty reduction is being advanced through a whole of society approach. Suriname has strengthened social protection programs and cash transfer systems to support low-income families, female-headed households, and communities in the interior. Access to health, education, and housing service has expanded, and special attention is given to indigenous and tribal peoples, ensuring that no one is left behind. Madam President, we recognize that achieving economic development and social justice can only be implemented in a coherent and integrated approach. Under SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, Suriname is promoting sustainable development for all. Our fertile soil and freshwater resources are being used to strengthen local food production and to reduce dependency on inputs. Nutrition programs now reach schools and remote communities, focusing on children and expectant mothers, while financing and institutional capacity remain major challenges, efforts are ongoing to ensure economic growth and social justice. In conclusion, Madam President, Suriname, as a member of the Commission for Social Development, reaffirms its strong commitment to worldwide efforts to establish economic growth and social justice. We stand ready to share our experience as a small green nation, working to ensure that every citizen can live free from hunger and poverty in harmony with nature. Let us work together to turn promises into progress and cooperation into tangible change for all. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Suriname, and I now give the floor to the representative of Dominican Republic.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the Dominican Republic is grateful for the holding of the 64th session of the Commission on Social Development. We reiterate our staunch commitment to building inclusive, equitable and cohesive societies in accordance with Agenda 2030 for sustainable development and in line with international consensuses that have been reaffirmed in the Doha Declaration on Social Development. Social development is a central thrust of public policy in the Dominican Republic. Our work is rooted in a rights-based life cycle approach, and our work is territorially orientated, and it's designed to strengthen social cohesion. With that in mind, the country has strengthened its institutions designed to provide social protection in a joined-up way. Today, these efforts are reaching some 1.6 million homes. We have a single beneficiary system which allows us to provide targeted assistance to people and families that are among the most vulnerable. Our social development unit leads the national strategy to eradicate poverty. It has increasingly safe and transparent and modern payment mechanisms. Early childhood is very important. We prioritize early social investment as the basis for social development through our national system for child and adolescent protection. Through that system, we have our early childhood institution, INAIPI. We have an extended school day providing extracurricular activities and school feeding. All of this provides access to education, care, nutrition, and comprehensive care. That narrows inequalities from the very earliest stages of life. Now, in terms of what we're doing for young people, we are championing policies aimed at providing education, employability, and active participation. We have programs such as Opportunity 1424 and the First Employment Programme. This promotes technical training, labour integration, and youth education. The programme recognises that young people are strategic actors in national development. Chair, the country is making progress with active ageing programme focused on their development, and this is underpinned by a law whose goal is to protect ageing persons, and we have our National Ageing Council, the CONAPE. We also have our Comprehensive Development and Protection Programme, which provides care services, home-based care services, and psychosocial and legal support free of charge to older persons. This system also provides solidarity-based pensions, which provide basic incomes and social protection to pensioners and to ensure that they have basic income, particularly if they are in vulnerable situations. These initiatives are linked up to national efforts to gradually strengthen a care system which is based on the notion of joint social and family responsibility. We have a cross-cutting approach to our policies in this regard. We're making progress with developing an inclusive model for persons with disabilities. Our National Disability Council, CONADIS, is doing this work. These policies include the certification and assessment of disability, the strengthening of systems to provide disaggregated data on types of disabilities across the life cycle, the promotion of universal awareness of disabilities, inclusive education, integration into the workplace, and active access to social protection, health, education, employment and care programs. And all of this is part of our National Disability Plan. Madam Chair, the Dominican Republic reaffirms its commitment to social development. This is a pillar of peace, justice and sustainable development. We reiterate our readiness to strengthen international cooperation and multilateralism more generally to move towards a more inclusive, resilient and equitable society, one in which people can fully exercise their rights and achieve their full potential. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Dominican Republic, and I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the outset, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to you, Madam Chair, and the Bureau members and Secretariat for organizing this session. Around 30 years ago, the Copenhagen Declaration and the Program of Action were adopted at the World Summit for Social Development. These important documents pledged to place people at the center of development by ensuring full participation by all, and affirmed the determination of the international community to take action toward poverty eradication, full and productive employment, and social inclusion. At the Second World Summit for Social Development last year, member states adopted the Doha Political Declaration, renewing our commitment to these three core themes of Copenhagen Declaration and the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The summit also reaffirmed the social development is based on human dignity. Japan appreciates the initiative of Qatar as the host country and the leadership of Belgium and Morocco as co-facilitators to compile the Doha Declaration and welcomes its adoption. However, due to urgent and complex challenges facing the international community, including social inequality, conflict, and climate change, the progress in social development remains slow and unequal. Even when the deadline for the 2030 Agenda is pressing. In this context, Japan believes that this year's Commission for Social Development, held under the priority theme of advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies, is the key to accelerating our commitment to these two political declarations and SDGs. To realize a world where no one is left behind, Japan underscores the concept of human security, which places the individual at the center and seeks to protect human dignity. Human security should be a guiding principle to achieve social development, the SDGs, and society where the dignity of every individual is respected. Madam Chair, Japan has addressed social challenges such as declining birth rate, an aging population, natural disasters, and regional revitalization efforts. Based upon the experience and insights gained from these challenges, Japan continues to commit itself to further helping developing countries address their own social challenges in line with the Doha Declaration. For example, Japan has diligently implemented initiatives in line with Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and rigorously invested in fostering human development through education. Last August, Japan co-hosted the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 9, with the AUC, UN, UNDP, and World Bank, and adopted the Yokohama Declaration reaffirming our cooperation based on human security to co-create innovative solutions with Africa for inclusive growth and sustainable development. Madam Chair, following the second social summit, Japan renews its commitment to advance social development based on human security and human dignity, addressing to the key principle of the SDGs, leaving no one behind, and working hand in hand with like-minded partners. I thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Japan, and I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Luxembourg.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Luxembourg likes itself with the statement of the European Union. Allow me to add a few remarks in my national capacity. Madam Chair, 2026 is taking place in a unique context. Last November, during the second World Summit on Social Development in Doha, our heads of state and government reaffirmed their commitment to social development by renewing the principles of the Copenhagen Declaration and its program of action through the adoption of the Doha Political Declaration. At the same time, the United Nations is going through a major transformation period marked by the UN 80 initiative, a persistent liquidity crisis, and the approaching deadline for the 2030 agenda. In this context, investing in social development is of vital importance for attaining the SDGs. The priority theme of this year is a pivotal opportunity for underscoring the need for coordinated, equitable, and inclusive public policies that can overcome institutional silos and ensure improved coherence between economic, social, environmental, and digital policies to strive toward a common goal, leaving no one behind. The SG's report highlights that policy fragmentation fuels existing inequalities and that inclusion and equity are not only fundamental values of social development, but are also the very foundation of social justice. Social justice cannot be achieved unless we have coherent and coordinated public action, especially in the area of social services and protection, labor, technology, migration, and disaster risk reduction in order to provide equitable support for all of the major transitions underway. This should also rely on cross-cutting understanding of inequalities, especially those linked to gender, childhood, disability, and situation of the most vulnerable persons. The common goal of achieving social justice and development is indelibly linked to multilateralism as well as to solidarity. Luxembourg's commitment to international solidarity translates in concrete terms into our continued effort to allocate 1% of our gross national income to official development aid. We focus on the least developed countries and the most vulnerable populations in these countries. Social development remains a cornerstone of Luxembourgish cooperation, for which the principal goal is poverty eradication, especially through promoting professional training, access to social services, sustainable and inclusive growth, and the socioeconomic integration of women and youth. In closing, Madam Chair, distinguished colleagues, Luxembourg reaffirms its commitment to a multilateral system that is based upon solidarity and inclusion to guarantee just and sustainable social development for all. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Luxembourg, and I now give the floor to the representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Indonesia aligns itself with the statements made on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, and now wishes to add the following in our national capacity. Social justice for all is a core principle of Indonesia's national ideology, placing people at the center of development. For Indonesia, social development is not an abstract aspiration, but a sustained national commitment embedded in our development priorities. This commitment has proven to deliver tangible progress nationally. Unemployment rate has fallen to below 5%, its lowest level in 30 years. More than 98% of Indonesians are covered by national health insurance, and we have free medical checkup every year. The poverty rate has declined to its lowest level in the past 20 years. And despite global economic turmoil, Indonesia's economy remains resilient in 2025, maintaining growth at around 5% with inflation kept within the targeted range of approximately 2.5%. These achievements demonstrate that inclusive policies, when sustainable and well executed, can generate impactful and lasting results. To maintain this momentum, Indonesia has pursued concrete, bold, and transformative social policies. Since January 2025, we have implemented a free nutritious meals program for pregnant and lactating mothers, infants, children, and elderly citizens living alone. To date, the program has delivered almost 60 million meals every day through 22,275 community kitchens and created around 1 million jobs, strengthening local value chains across villages nationwide. We also launched free annual medical checkups as a strategic investment in early disease detection and prevention, productivity, and long-term fiscal sustainability. 80,000 village cooperatives have been established to enhance the welfare of rural communities, create jobs, and promote financial inclusion. To strengthen our human capital, we have expanded access to quality education, including through large-scale school renovations and investment in digital learning. Excellencies, while Indonesia continues to demonstrate tangible progress at the national level, these efforts are increasingly tested by a complex global environment characterized by ongoing conflicts, persistent inequalities, and trust deficit among nations. History reminds us that peace and stability are the ultimate prerequisites for growth and prosperity. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no lasting peace without social justice. This reality underscores the urgency of collective action. First, we must ensure effective implementation and follow-up of the outcomes of the World Summit for Social Development. As this is our first meeting following the Doha Summit, robust follow-up and review mechanisms are essential to implement commitments made in Copenhagen and Doha, supported by stronger accountability, improved data and monitoring, and inclusive partnership. Second, we must strengthen cooperation that delivers concrete results on the ground. Advancing social development demands coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies supported by predictable financing, technology transfer, and capacity building. Third, we need to renew trust in multilateralism, UN80 process must serve as a catalyst for greater policy coherence and institutions that better address today's interconnected challenges. Social development is about justice, not only about lifting people out of poverty, but also lifting humanity towards equality. As Indonesia moves confidently towards becoming a high-income developed country by its centennial in 2045, we firmly believe that the true measure of progress lies in the people's well-being, dignity, and resilience. Let us work together to build a world grounded in peace, dignity, and opportunity for all. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Permanent Representative of Indonesia, and I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Greece.
Greece welcomes the convening of the 64th session of the Commission of Social Development. We firmly believe that social justice cannot be delivered through fragmented or standalone interventions. It requires policy coherence, whole-of-government coordination, and evidence-based action. Equally important is the ability to assess distributional impacts so that growth, digital transformation, and the green transition reduce inequalities rather than deepen them. The commitments reaffirmed in the Doha Political Declaration remind us that poverty eradication, social inclusion, and decent work remain at the core of sustainable development. These goals must be pursued through strong and adaptive social protection systems, universal access to essential services, and targeted support for people in vulnerable situations. At the national level, Greece continues to strengthen its social protection framework with particular emphasis on access to healthcare, prevention, and community-based services. Digital solutions are increasingly used to improve outreach and continuity of care, including in remote and island regions, ensuring accessibility. Special attention is given to gender equality and the protection of women and girls. Measures to prevent and address gender-based and domestic violence have been reinforced, alongside integrated support services. In this context, targeted initiatives supporting caregiving and work-life balance, including community-based child care schemes, contribute to women's labor market participation and more inclusive labor markets. Greece underscores the importance of addressing poverty with dignity through resilient, people-centered care and support systems, with particular emphasis on children, older persons, persons with disabilities, and individuals facing multiple and intersecting forms of exclusion. Madam President, allow me to give the floor to the Greek UN Youth Delegate now, Ms. Alexia Papageorgiou.
As a youth delegate from Greece, I'm speaking from a generation that is navigating uncertainty, rapid change, and rising pressures. For us, justice is not abstract. For it is felt in whether we can afford a home, enter the labor market with dignity, feel safe in our communities, and imagine a future worth planning for. Access to affordable housing has become one of the defining challenges for youth today. Policies have been introduced and are being implemented to facilitate young people's access to housing, particularly in urban areas, responding to growing insecurity that shapes life choices, delays independence, and affects social inclusion. Housing for our generation is about stability, autonomy, and the ability to move forward. Employment and education are closely connected to this challenge. Measures already in place to support young people's entry into the labor market, as well as opportunities for skills development and professional experience, help ease transitions and reduce the risk of long-term exclusion. We also see the importance of policies that are being implemented to strengthen participation in cultural, social, and civic life, as well as digital tools that have been developed and deployed to enhance safety and prevention. These initiatives foster belonging at a time when many young people feel disconnected from institutions and public life. At the same time, meaningful youth participation requires the existence of clear, accessible, and effective mechanisms that provide young people with real agency in policy design and implementation. Strengthening such mechanisms is essential for building trust, improving outcomes, and ensuring that social policies reflect the realities that young people face, not only as beneficiaries, but as contributors. As we move towards 2030, Greece remains committed to advancing social development through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive participation grounded in solidarity and accountability. We stand ready to work with all partners to translate our shared commitments from Copenhagen to Doha into tangible outcomes that strengthen social cohesion and improve the lives of all. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Greece and the youth delegate from Greece, and I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, over the past 2.5 years, Israeli civilians have been affected by the impacts of war, which have challenged social development and the pursuit of social justice. These challenges have been addressed through the combined efforts of government institutions, civil society organizations, and volunteers. More than 270,000 Israelis who have been displaced from their homes received coordinated assistance from Israeli ministries in cooperation with local authorities, including temporary housing, financial support, healthcare, psychological services, educational continuity for children, and employment-related assistance. The combined efforts of civil society organizations and volunteers further strengthened these response, particularly in supporting children, older persons, and persons with disabilities. As stated in the Secretary General's report on the priority theme, the principle of leaving no one behind recognizes the individuals who may experience overlapping disadvantages, underscoring the limits of isolated interventions. Policies that overlook how gender, disability, age, and other characteristics intersect risk deepening inequality, whereas coordinated frameworks can address these overlapping barriers and respond more effectively to people's different situations. Addressing multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination require integrated and inclusive responses across social, health, labor, and education policies, among others. This is even more significant in times of emergency, when the resources are scarce and the attention is not focused on these matters, but on survival. Excellency, in March 2025, the Israeli Knesset approved the establishment of a national authority to combat poverty under the Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs. This is consistent with the CSocD64 emerging issue theme, and indeed an emerging issue in our point of view, of the need to eradicate poverty and ensure dignity through resilient care and support systems. The new established authority is mandated to coordinate government efforts, develop and oversee multi-year and annual national plans, strengthen prevention and research, support food security, and provide assistance to families living below the poverty line, including through the establishment of a National Center for Information and Research on Poverty. The principle of leaving no one behind recognizes individuals who may experience overlapping disadvantages, underscoring the limits of isolated interventions. It is our roles as member states to look closer and make sure our policies and collaborations give the correct response for the benefit of all. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Israel, and I now give the floor to the representative of Yemen.
Madam Chair, the Copenhagen Summit on Social Development of 1995 laid the foundations for an international consensus focused on the human as the center of development. This was renewed by the Declaration after the Second World Summit on Social Development. For us, Yemen, the current stage that we are in requires a transition from political commitments to practical implementation to bring about tangible results in practice. That would help us to attain the hoped-for results based on cooperation, solidarity, and common responsibility. Social justice and social development, sustainable development are not optional. They are an ethical imperative for development. Madam Chair, Yemen continues to fight on many fronts to restore and rebuild our national institutions based on justice, citizenship, rule of law, and legality and equality. After the war launched by the Houthi terrorists, that has had a profound impact on our social and economic institutions, and this has exacerbated our poverty level and our unemployment rate. It also has damaged basic social services, especially when it comes to energy, education, health care, social protection. However, despite these massive challenges, the government of Yemen has enjoyed support from its regional and international partners, and it is striving to ensure the country's recovery through economic, financial, and administrative reforms that aim to promote sustainable growth and to expand the foundations for social protection while creating job opportunities and supporting small and micro enterprises, including projects led by women and youth. Madam Chair, promoting social development requires policies that are inclusive and based on solidarity and international cooperation that are capable of tackling the many challenges that developing countries face, especially for LDCs, including combating poverty in all of its forms, as well as the fight to resolve armed conflict and economic crises. Climate change as well as one of these challenges. We need national efforts combined with international support. Yemen reaffirms its faith in international solidarity and collective action as well as shared responsibility as the best approaches for transforming challenges and crises into opportunities and suffering into hope, so we have a more equitable, just, and dignified future for future generations. We believe the Second World Summit on Social Development of Doha was an occasion for us to renew our collective commitment to a future based on sustainable development and social justice. We hope to see an effective partnership to help build a Yemen that is stable, prosperous, and safe, that would be a part of its regional and international environment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the permanent representative of Yemen, and I now give the floor to the representative of Malta.
Malta adheres to the statement made by the European Union and has the honor to make the following remarks in its national capacity. We would also like to thank the Bureau and UN Secretariat for their efforts in preparing this session. Malta was proud to attend last year's World Social Summit in Doha, where we collectively reiterated that achieving sustainable development requires comprehensive action across its social, economic, and environmental dimensions. Therefore, social development is indispensable to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. We must eradicate poverty, ensure decent work for all, and reduce inequalities. The Doha Political Declaration is our blueprint for the social contract of the 21st century. Yet everywhere we look, implementation is beset by challenges. Let me focus on a few key issues as we move forward. SDG 8 highlights the strong link between sustainable economic growth and decent work for all. Creating decent jobs for young people entering the labor force and supporting innovation, including in developing countries, remains essential. In particular, harnessing artificial intelligence for economic growth presents both significant challenges and opportunities in the years to come. But economic growth cannot be pursued without rules and guardrails. Observing the ILO's international labor standards and respecting international human rights law are both crucial, and this is true for the private sector as well as for governments. Increasing labor participation can be another driver of growth. And in this regard, Malta fully supports the idea that underrepresented groups require special attention. This includes persons with disabilities who have specific needs implementing the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and ensuring their full, effective, and meaningful participation must be a priority for us all. Excellencies, we meet today in one of the global engines of economic growth and prosperity, and yet in too many places around the world, women, children, and the elderly live on less than the minimum wage, or young people are unable to afford to buy a house because of rising property prices and stagnant wages. Sustainable social development must include government efforts to address these issues, and Malta recognizes this. Malta also believes that sustainable economic development requires substantial investment in education and human capital. Malta has and will continue to offer scholarship opportunities to students from small island developing states and other developing countries to advance their studies and contribute to the growth of their communities. Malta recognizes that gender inequality remains a persistent driver of poverty and social exclusion. Malta supports targeted policies and sustained gender-responsive measures that enable the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women in all spheres of society, including promoting equal access to decent work, addressing persistent gender pay gaps, and ensuring equal economic security and opportunities across the life course, particularly for women in vulnerable situations. Now I will hand over to Malta's youth delegate to deliver some remarks.
Thank you for the floor. Having been present at the Second World Summit for Social Development in Qatar, and now at this follow-up, it is encouraging to see a determination in actioning what has been declared in Copenhagen and Doha. In the Doha Political Declaration, we highlighted the importance of access to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health and well-being for all. We have just today seen the release of the World Youth Report on youth mental health and well-being, which stresses that a community cross-sectoral approach is needed to address mental health. Indeed, community solidarity is required not only to address mental health matters, but to address other issues concerning social development. In this regard, the meaningful participation of youth is essential, as their engagement contributes significantly to advancing resilient societies that uphold both social development and mental well-being. We believe that social development is not a zero-sum game, but that solidarity is necessary for everyone's social progress. Let us come together to consider new solutions to these and other challenges as part of our support for this Commission's work. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Malta and the youth delegate from Malta, and I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last November 2nd World Summit for Social Development in Doha reaffirmed our commitment to the Copenhagen principles established 3 decades ago. However, it also revealed persistent gaps between aspiration and implementation. Indeed, 30 years after Copenhagen, we still struggle with the policy fragmentation, persistent inequalities, and exclusion of marginalized groups. In this context, this year's priority theme, advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies, could not be more timely. My delegation approaches this theme with humility. Korea has achieved remarkable economic transformation, yet we now face rapid aging, evolving family structure, and widening disparities. These challenges have taught us that sustainable progress requires policies that work across sectors, reach all communities, and incorporate diverse voices from the outset. Let me share the 3 reflections from our ongoing efforts. First, coordination is not merely an administrative procedure. It is a justice issue. Genuine coordination requires sustained political commitments to break down ministerial silos and align national priorities with local realities. In this vein, the Republic of Korea plans to conduct a survey on the current status of wage for non-regular workers in the public sector, and to develop corresponding improvement measures based on these results. Furthermore, we are establishing an institutional framework to ensure equal pay for work of equal value, recognizing that decent work requires alignment across labor, social protection, and economic policies. Secondly, equity demands that we examine not only how resources are distributed, but also whether our policies are genuinely reaching to those who need them the most. My government continues to working to close gaps that persist across generations and income levels, and is setting up special accounts for regional and essential health care to address the stark geographical disparities in medical access. Third, inclusion requires removing structural barriers that prevent full participation in economic and social life. In order to resolve these persistent gender pay gaps, the Republic of Korea is implementing the publication of gender pay statistics by listed companies and public institutions. We are also working toward the 67% women's labor participation, not simply as a numerical target, but as recognition that economics cannot be inclusive when half the population faces structural barriers to economic engagement. The emerging issue before us, eradicating poverty through resilient care and support systems, demonstrates how coordination, equity, and inclusion must work together. With our rapidly aging society, where 1 in 5 Koreans is over 65, Korea's new Integrated Community Care Act, set for full implementation next month, represents our commitment to coordinated action, linking medical care, long-term care, and community services to support aging in place. Madam Chair, the Doha Declaration challenged us to demonstrate concrete political will commensurate with our commitments. Achieving social development and social justice depends on robust governance systems that foster genuine coordination, deliver equitable outcomes, and enable inclusive participation. The Republic of Korea supports strengthened international cooperations on international policy approaches. We stand ready to work with all member states to translate shared commitment into measurable progress. I thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea, and I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Brazil.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, colleagues, Brazil aligns itself with the statement made by Uruguay on behalf of the G77 and China. This session's priority theme reflects a simple truth that Brazilians have learned through experience. Social justice does not emerge from isolated programs, but from strong political will, institutional coordination, and sustained public investment. President Lula often reminds us that hunger is not a natural phenomenon. It is a political failure. In 2025, in a highly adverse global context, Brazil managed to once again be placed out of the United Nations hunger map. This achievement is the result of evidence-based policies and, above all, of a clear decision to place the poorest at the center of the national budget. Our experience shows that combating hunger requires an integrated approach. In Brazil, we have articulated income protection, food and nutrition security, social assistance, productive inclusion, and care policies within the Brazil Without Hunger plan. Coordination across different sectors and levels of government has been essential to ensuring effectiveness and sustainability. Income security remains a cornerstone of social justice. In 2025, the Bolsa Familia program reached nearly 20 million families, assuring a basic income while promoting access to health, education, and adequate nutrition. At the same time, more than 2 million families were able to leave the program due to increased income supported by safety tools that boost formal employment. But social development cannot rely on income transfers alone. Brazil's unified social assistance system is one of the largest decentralized systems in the global south. It provides rights-based services throughout the country, responding to poverty, homelessness, migration, disasters, and child labor. In 2025, federal co-financing was strengthened, professional training expanded, and emergency response mechanisms reinforced to ensure that no one is left behind. We have also opened pathways to work and income. Through the Acredita program, Brazil expanded access to credit, professional training, and formal employment opportunities for low-income populations. Nearly all new formal jobs created in recent years have been filled by people registered in our social registry, showing that social protection and economic growth are mutually reinforcing. Equality is economic policy. Brazil has advanced equal pay for equal work, strengthened policies to combat discrimination and violence, and placed special emphasis on women, children, Black and indigenous populations, persons with disabilities, older persons, and LGBTQA+ people. We have also made a strategic choice to recognize care as social infrastructure. In 2025, Brazil launched its national care policy, expanding services, strengthening governance, and valuing care work as a right, a necessity, and a driver of inclusion. Strong institutions are essential to coordinated and inclusive policies. The modernization of Brazil's unified social registry has improved targeting, transparency, and service delivery, and reinforced the integrity of public spending. Participation, social dialogue, and accountability remain central pillars. Our national experience has shaped our international engagement. In 2024, Brazil launched the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, which now brings together more than 200 members, including governments, international organizations, and development banks. The alliance promotes a new model of cooperation in which countries lead with their own policies and partners align in a coordinated and results-oriented manner. Colleagues, the commitments made in Copenhagen and reaffirmed in Doha demand renewed political will. Brazil stands ready to continue sharing its experiences, learning from others, and strengthening multilateral cooperation for promoting equity, inclusion, and dignity for all. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Brazil, and I now give the floor to the representative of Tunisia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, Tunisia would like to congratulate Qatar on the successful Second World Summit for Social Development hosted in Doha. The summit was an important milestone in strengthening international commitment to placing people at the heart of development policies and entrenching social justice. We commend Jordan's role in organizing the conference for the implementation of the Doha Declaration. This is an integrated plan that reflects Arab priorities. Chair, the current phase requires the adoption of new and more effective approaches that ensure balance between economic growth and social development and respond to people's aspirations for dignity and equity. In light thereof, Tunisia has made social justice the main pillar of its national policies through a development model that enhances the social role of the state, aims to reduce disparities, combat exclusion, and ensure equal opportunities for all. In this context, Tunisia has embarked on profound legislative and institutional reforms to entrench social justice in all its dimensions by supporting decent work and protecting the fundamental rights of workers, combating informal and precarious work, prohibiting outsourcing in the private and public sectors, ensuring job security and fair working conditions, extending social protection for the benefit of workers in the agricultural sector, regulating domestic work, and establishing unemployment insurance fund. Tunisia attaches particular importance to strengthening the social protection of women and ensuring their full integration into development paths, thus supporting their economic independence and enshrining equal opportunities and rights. In 2024, we joined the Global Coalition for Social Justice. In 2000, we joined the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, based on our belief that these alliances represent practical mechanisms to mobilize government and international efforts and accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. Chair, eradicating poverty and ensuring dignity through resilient and inclusive care and support systems is a key priority in light of multiple global crises. For us, investing in social protection and welfare is the cornerstone of social cohesion and more resilient and just societies. Achieving social development requires the effective engagement of different segments of society, including civil society, social partners, and the private sector, to elaborate more inclusive and effective policies. In conclusion, we reiterate our commitment to cooperating with all partners for equitable and inclusive social policies that guarantee dignity and social justice for all. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the representative of Tunisia, and I now give the floor to the representative of Nigeria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, at the outset, allow me to align my delegation with the statements delivered by Liberia on behalf of the Africa Group and Uruguay on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. Madam Chair, we wish to recall the commitments undertaken by member states at the Copenhagen Declaration and the Doha World Summit. Nigeria therefore welcomes the theme of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development, which underscores the critical role of coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies in advancing social development and social justice. For Nigeria, social development remains a central pillar of sustainable development, social cohesion, and national stability. Our approach is guided by the principles of people-centered development, equity, and inclusion as articulated in the Copenhagen Declaration, which recognizes poverty eradication, full employment, and social integration as core objectives of social development. Accordingly, Nigeria has continued to implement national social investment and social protection programs aimed at reducing poverty and supporting vulnerable populations. The government has also prioritized youth empowerment and employment as key drivers of inclusive social development. Consequently, programs focused on skills acquisition, entrepreneurship, and employment support are being implemented to enhance youth participation in national development and address the socio-economic challenges. In parallel, Nigeria remains committed to advancing gender equality and women's empowerment through targeted interventionist programs that expand access to finance, promote girls' education, and strengthen social protection. Madam Chair, Nigeria recognizes that effective social development requires strong coordination across sectors and institutions, as well as meaningful participation by civil society, the private sector, and local communities. Efforts are therefore ongoing to strengthen policy coherence, improve data-driven planning, and enhance institutional coordination in line with the Copenhagen and Doha recommendations. However, in order to achieve desired progress in social development and social justice, Nigeria emphasizes that national efforts must be complemented by robust international coordination and global solidarity. Developing countries continue to face persistent structural constraints, including limited fiscal space, rising debt burdens, and recurrent external shocks. Addressing these constraints require enhanced and predictable development financing, including concessions, financing, debt relief, and restructuring mechanisms that enable developing countries to invest sustainably in social sectors. Furthermore, Nigeria calls for fairer and more inclusive global economic governance that supports sustainable and inclusive growth. In this wise, reforming international financial institutions, addressing global tax inequalities, and ensuring that international trade and financial systems work for the benefit of all are essential to advancing social justice and fulfilling globally agreed commitments. Madam Chair, as the international community accelerates efforts to implement the outcomes of the Second World Summit for Social Development and advance the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Nigeria wishes to once again call for a renewed political will to place social development and social justice at the center of national and international policy agendas. In conclusion, Madam Chair, Nigeria stands ready to work with all partners to strengthen global solidarity and collective action to build more just, inclusive, and resilient societies for present and future generations, while also reaffirming the government's commitment to the Copenhagen and Doha outcomes to advance social development and social justice. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the representative of Nigeria, and I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of China.
Chair, China supports the statements made by Uruguay on behalf of G77 and China, and by Venezuela on behalf of the Group of Friends in defense of the UN Charter. Today, a multitude of crises, including geopolitical tensions and clashes, economic volatility, and climate change, are exacerbating poverty and inequalities that seriously hamper social development. With certain countries politicizing development issues and attempting to push them to the sidelines, the implementation of the 2030 Agenda is facing enormous challenges. Last year, the second World Summit on Social Development was successfully held in Qatar, charting the course for global social development endeavors. China looks forward to building greater consensus at this session to encourage the active implementation of the summit outcomes and greater synergy for global social development. In this vein, I wish to share 3 points. First, we should advocate development as a priority and revitalize the social development agenda. We should aim to position development at the center of the international agenda and give it prominence in a global macro policy framework. We should move faster towards the SDGs with greater emphasis on promoting and protecting the rights to subsistence and development. We should never lose sight of our 3 overarching goals, namely poverty reduction, decent work, and social inclusion, foster new drivers of innovation-driven development, strive to bridge the digital and AI divide, and continuously unleash the internal enablers of social development. Second, we should keep up the people-centered approach and reinforce the foundation of livelihood security for our populations. We should consistently prioritize the all-round development of individuals as the point of departure and ultimate goal of social development. We should better provide public services that are inclusive, meet essential needs, and offer a cushion for those most in need. With an improved social security system and more balanced and accessible essential public services, we should keep improving the social governance system, promote social equity and justice, and ensure all sectors of society can partake of the dividends of social development. Third, we should practice multilateralism with greater solidarity and cooperation. We should uphold the principle of creating shared benefits through extensive consultation and joint contribution to forge a global development partnership and support the UN's central coordinating role in the global social development agenda. We should call on the international community to mobilize more resources and provide tangible support for social development in the global south, enhance the representation and voice of developing countries in global social development governance, and promote equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal rules for all countries. Madam Chair, China is committed to securing and improving people's livelihoods in the course of development and broadening the development space by meeting the needs of the people and ensuring that the fruits of Chinese modernization benefit all the people more extensively and equitably. China has also been actively sharing her experience in poverty reduction and development with other countries as our rightful contribution to humanity's social development and progress. elaborating and implementing medium to long-term plans to guide the country's economic and social development is a success story from China's practice in economic and social governance. The proposal for the 15th five-year plan adopted last October at the 4th plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee is the new blueprint for China's socio-economic development over the next 5 years. A China that keeps modernizing herself through a succession of uninterrupted efforts will no doubt create vast opportunities for the common development of all countries. We look forward to working with other parties to accelerate the implementation of the Copenhagen Declaration and POA, jointly advance the 4 major global initiatives and make fresh contributions to and inject new impetus into our global social development efforts on an ongoing basis. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of China, and I now give the floor to the representative of Ecuador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My delegation aligns itself with the statement made by Uruguay on behalf of G77 and China. This 64th session of the Commission on Social Development is a crucial forum to strengthen international dialogue and to identify common ways forward that will allow us to move towards models for social development which are fairer, more resilient and more inclusive. Ecuador is facing one of the greatest challenges in its recent history. It is the challenge of reducing the gaps that emerged over decades of deeply rooted economic and social inequalities. At the same time, we must resolutely combat transnational organized crime networks. These networks seek in a coordinated fashion to destabilize our democracy once and for all. Against that backdrop, moving towards truly transformative social development using an inclusive, participative approach which is rooted in the promotion and protection of human rights compels us to recognize that peace and development are inextricably linked. It also involves us adopting comprehensive responses which simultaneously tackle the structural causes of inequality and the factors that fuel violence and marginalization. Robust, structured action based on genuine shared responsibility is the only thing that can address the factors that include transnational organized crime, the factors that plunge millions of people into poverty. That crime erodes peace, social justice, and respect for human rights. These are central values of this organization. We must recognize and agree that the economic and social consequences of transnational organized crime are similar to those of traditional conflicts. Madam Chair, distinguished colleagues, nationally, and as we stated at the Second World Summit for Social Development, we believe that social development is only possible when human beings are placed at the heart of public policy and when poverty eradication and the reduction of inequalities are embraced as challenges to be addressed through sustainable state policies. With that perspective in mind, the social policy of the Ecuadorian government has focused on incorporating all dimensions of sustainable development into national planning. It's also focused on monitoring the results of this policy implementation through innovative monitoring instruments designed to break intergenerational cycles of poverty and exclusion. Multilaterally, Ecuador reaffirms that international cooperation for development remains a crucial pillar to buttress national efforts. This is particularly true in countries that are fragile, facing violence, or beset by deeply rooted inequalities. Demonstrating the irreplaceable nature of this organization in the midst of the monumental crisis of confidence it is facing is an almost existential challenge for this universal system. The UN is the only global parliament with space for representatives of all states of the world. Ecuador supports a reform of the United Nations in which the General Assembly and the Economic and Social Council, together with their bodies, subsidiary organs, funds and programs, act as catalysts able to effectively respond and meet the needs of people and communities that are among the most vulnerable. The time has come to bolster multilateral mechanisms for financial and technical cooperation. They need to be strategically geared towards narrowing social divides. They need to avoid overlap and competition between development agencies, and they need to bolster efficiency and transparency as guiding management principles at the United Nations. It is only through a new multilateral system based on integrity and shared responsibility that we will be able to make sustained progress in fulfilling the commitments made by the international community during the first and second World Summits for Social Development. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Ecuador, and I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Italy aligns itself with the statement delivered by the Cyprus Presidency of the European Union and wishes to add the following remarks in its national capacity. We welcome the priorities of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development and recognize that care and support systems are essential to enabling societies to uphold dignity and equality. The world is facing multiple interconnected challenges in a time of profound multilateral crisis. Cooperation is therefore essential to advance social development. In this context, Italy supports international efforts in favor of expanding human capabilities and strengthening resilience to shocks. The Pact for the Future represents a key reference framework for our collective action. Cooperation within the United Nations system remains essential to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and to reinforcing social protection measures worldwide. Italy firmly believes that equal access to education, decent work, and social protection systems is fundamental. Our country promotes an inclusive economy model rooted in solidarity and social cohesion, and pursues a people-centered approach to care and support policies. Madam Chair, leaving no one behind requires recognizing that poverty and social exclusion often stem from overlapping and multiple disadvantages, which demand comprehensive and coordinated responses. In Italy, the Ministry of Labour and Social Policies plays a central coordinating role in addressing these challenges, guiding national strategies for social inclusion through measures that combine income support with inclusion pathways aimed at fostering autonomy and empowerment. Within this framework, Italy's 2021-27 National Programme for Inclusion and Fight Against Poverty promotes an integrated approach to tackle the root causes of social exclusion, supported by substantial EU co-financing to strengthen assistance for the most vulnerable groups. Complementing these efforts, the National Poverty Fund ensures the delivery of essential social services to people experiencing poverty, including the risk of child poverty, reinforcing the overall capacity of local systems to respond effectively to complex needs. Guided by the pillars of people, planet, and prosperity, Italy recognized that different forms of discrimination require integrated and inclusive policy responses. A multidimensional approach is therefore essential to guarantee social protection, sustainability, and employment-oriented strategies, with particular attention to intergenerational inclusion. Italy is fully aware of its demographic profile, characterized by high life expectancy and a rapidly aging population. The necessity to meet the needs of an increasing number of older citizens calls for coordinated policies based on strong public-private cooperation as well as balanced short- and long-term planning. In this regard, we place a strong emphasis on inclusive education and lifelong training, with particular attention to upskilling and reskilling initiatives, including those supporting the employability of older workers. In a rapidly evolving global context, preventing skills obsolescence and ensuring timely adaptation to the green and digital transitions are essential priorities for our aging population. Such a forward-looking approach is fundamental to strengthening social resilience. Italy is therefore pursuing policies aimed at reinforcing labour market participation, particularly among women, young and vulnerable groups, supported by complementary economic empowerment measures. In particular, Italy invests in infrastructures that promote women's independence and empowerment. A comprehensive set of measures has been implemented to support parenthood, including child allowances, parental leave schemes, measures for working mothers re-entering the labour market, and family-focused incentives. This approach fully reflects the 2030 Agenda and the 2021-2027 EU Action Plan on Integration, which underscore the importance of policy coherence in support of full and meaningful participation of women, youth, and migrant workers in society, through equitable access to education, labour markets, and institutional decision-making processes. In this spirit, Italy firmly continues to work with the international partners to address shared challenges and to promote a resilient and inclusive society for generations to come. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy, and I now give the floor to the Representative of Mongolia.
Madam Chair, my delegation aligns itself with the statement delivered by Uruguay on behalf of G77. We underscore the significance of the current session, which is being convened in the immediate aftermath of World Social Summit. At the summit, world leaders reaffirmed their commitment to accelerating social progress, eradicating poverty, and building more inclusive, just, and sustainable societies, while pledging to translate these commitments into concrete actions. Madam Chair, today the world continues to face intersecting and compounding challenges, including persistent poverty, rising inequalities, demographic shifts, economic uncertainties, conflicts, and the adverse impacts of climate change. These challenges disproportionately affect vulnerable groups, particularly women, children, older persons, persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, and those living in rural and marginalized areas. This year's priority theme for CSocD is both timely and urgent. It reminds us social justice cannot be achieved through fragmented or isolated interventions, but requires integrated, people-centered, and inclusive policy responses. The world has made important strides for the first time on record. More than half of global population, 52.4%, now receives at least one form of social protection benefit, up from 42.8% in 2015. Yet this milestone conceals a persistent gap. 3.8 billion people remain entirely without any social protection coverage. Madam Chair, advancing social development and social justice resonates deeply with Mongolia's ongoing policy agenda. Recognizing that social justice cannot be achieved through fragmented efforts, Mongolia has embarked on comprehensive policy and legal reforms designed to strengthen the social contract and expand opportunity for all. Under the Human Development Policy on 2024-2028 Action Program, the government of Mongolia has introduced a package of reforms in the areas of family, labor, and social protection. These reforms aims to reduce poverty and unemployment by half, while increasing per capita GDP, reflecting a concerted effort to align economic and social development. Core legislative initiatives include amendments to the Law on Social Welfare, Law on Employment Promotion, the Family Law, Pension Law reforms, and the Law on Occupational Safety and Health, all designed to strengthen social protection, better target benefits, and promote decent work. Moreover, we further advanced inclusive social development through concrete group-specific actions. The government designed 2025 as the year of support to youth and the year of supporting employment of persons with disabilities that strengthened their participation, employment opportunities, and support services. Looking ahead, Mongolia continues to strengthen its long-term human development agenda through the planned designation of 2026 as the year of supporting education, 2027 as the year of supporting health, reflecting a sustained whole-of-government commitment to investing in human capital. These efforts are anchored in the 5-year development guidelines for 2026-2030, approved by the Parliament in late 2025, under the strategic framework New Trust, Bold Reform, identify human development and social development as core pillars, with a strong emphasis on regional equity, narrowing disparities, and promoting inclusive growth across the country. Within this framework, Mongolia has set a national target to increase the social well-being index by 20% over the next 5 years, underscoring its commitment to improving quality of life, expanding access to essential services, strengthening family stability, and enhancing social protection outcomes for all citizens. Madam Chair, lastly, my delegation wishes to underscore that advancing social development and social justice requires coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies at both national and global levels. In this context, Mongolia remains firmly committed to implementing evidence-based reforms, strengthening social protection systems, and promoting equitable opportunities for all segments of society. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Mongolia, and I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. Ireland aligns itself with the statement of the European Union and will now add some remarks in its national capacity. First, we would like to thank the Bureau and UNDESA for their preparatory work ahead of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development. We welcome this session's priority theme, which is focused on advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable and inclusive policies. Ireland's strong belief that people should always be at the centre of social policies and that sustainable development cannot be achieved if people are excluded or discriminated against on any grounds. Despite gains made over the course of the 30 years since the first World Summit for Social Development in Copenhagen, our world is facing escalating conflicts and increased humanitarian need, a worsening climate crisis and deepening inequality and poverty. At the recent World Social Summit in Doha, we recommitted to placing the social dimension of sustainable development at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals and to achieving Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind. Chair, reaching the furthest behind first is the overarching framework for Ireland's international development cooperation and humanitarian action, and we can only deliver on this ambition if we strongly progress gender equality. Women and girls in all their diversity often face significant discrimination, deprivation and social exclusion. Ireland fully recognises the crucial importance of women's economic empowerment as a direct pathway towards gender equality, poverty eradication and social and economic inclusion. We recognise that full access to social and reproductive health and rights is a precursor to full gender equality, a cornerstone of social development, shaping health, education and economic outcomes across generations. Chair, the Doha Declaration recognises the role of universal social protection as a precondition for social development, which promotes social justice. Social protection is a central component of Ireland's own social development. We have seen in Ireland how social protection acts as a frontline tool for tackling extreme poverty and inequality. It acts not just as a safety net, but also as a springboard for individuals to thrive and contribute meaningfully to their communities throughout their lives. The commitment to leave no one behind is especially relevant for persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities make up a disproportionate percentage of the world's poorest and are often invisible in social and development policies. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. To accelerate action, we must ensure that social development policies and programmes meaningfully integrate persons with disabilities in all aspects of development. This includes equal access for persons with disabilities to social protection floors and safety nets. Achieving social justice is not possible without inclusive societies that enable full, equal and meaningful participation for all, including but not limited to women, youth, older persons and persons with disabilities. Ireland is committed to strengthening multi-stakeholder engagement and partnerships, including with civil society, the private sector and underrepresented groups, in order to ensure successful, inclusive and equitable outcomes. Chair, the Doha Political Declaration, which builds upon the Copenhagen Declaration, the political declarations of the 2019 and 2023 SDG summits, the Pact of the Future and the Compromiso de Sevilla, marked a renewed global social contract grounded in solidarity, human rights, international cooperation and social justice. Success in meeting these commitments relies upon a strong rules-based multilateral system with the UN at its core. Ireland remains a firm and strong supporter of the United Nations and of the ongoing efforts to ensure an effective and efficient UN system, including at the country level under the leadership of the UN Resident Coordinator System. Chair, as we approach the end point of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it is vital that we take coordinated collective action in order to translate these commitments into reality and to prevent backsliding on development goals, on human rights and on gender equality. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Ireland, and I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Bangladesh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bangladesh aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of G77 and China. Now allow me to make a few remarks in our national capacity. To advance social development and social justice, we must have compassionate societies where opportunities are accessible to all and where dignity and equality are upheld. But this vision cannot be achieved in isolation. In a world of overlapping crises, we must respond to the needs of both people and planet through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies to ensure that no one is left behind. Madam Chair, Bangladesh firmly believes that social development and social justice require a holistic approach that integrates economic, social, and environmental dimensions. We have placed people and the planet at the center of our policies. We have prioritized rural development, women's and youth empowerment, social protection, and inclusive finance. Nearly 15% of our national budget is allocated for social protection. We are transitioning to a life cycle-based approach that provides protection from early childhood to old age. Our social protection schemes cover 114 initiatives, including cash transfers for older persons, persons with disabilities, as well as programs related to food security and employment generation. Madam Chair, today many of the LDCs, particularly those preparing for graduation, face fiscal constraints due to debt servicing, climate-induced disasters, and hosting refugees, in our case 1.3 million Rohingyas fleeing persecution in Myanmar. Madam Chair, to sustain the momentum of Second World Summit for Social Development, we propose the following. Expand access to concessional finance, debt relief, and affordable long-term financing for developing countries. Invest in affordable digital infrastructure, digital literacy, and technology transfer. Increase investment in climate-resilient projects, early warning systems, and locally led adaptation solutions. Strengthen international cooperation on social protection, migration, disaster response, knowledge sharing, and capacity building. And finally, ensure predictable and adequate international support for countries hosting displaced people and promoting burden and responsibility sharing. Madam Chair, as development is the foundation of lasting peace, we call to divert resources from military expenditure towards development programs. We must restore our collective trust on multilateralism and strengthen global solidarity for a world where peace can truly endure. Bangladesh stands ready to work with all partners to that end. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Permanent Representative of Bangladesh, and I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative Oman.
Madam Chairperson, we align ourselves with the statement delivered by Uruguay on behalf of the G77 and China. It is our honor to express our sincere appreciation for the efforts in organizing the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development under the theme Strengthening Social Development and Social Justice through Coordinated, Equitable, and Inclusive Policies. This session is a vital platform to exchange experiences and promote international cooperation to strengthen social development, social justice, and social inclusion. We reaffirm our unwavering commitment to achieving comprehensive and sustainable social development based on our national approach that places the human being at the center and ultimate objective of development. This commitment is fully aligned with the SDGs and Oman Vision 2040, which accords the highest priority to enhancing social well-being, ensuring equal opportunities, and protecting the most vulnerable. We have adopted an integrated package of policies and programs to strengthen social protection. Key among them, the adoption of the social protection law and the labor law, as well as the establishment of the Social Protection Fund as a unified umbrella system that ensures comprehensive coverage and the sustainability of social benefits for all segments of society. We also have the job security system that has been introduced to provide protection for workers who have been laid off. We have been transitioning to a new phase of sustainable development through an integrated framework that seeks to expand economic diversification, promote balanced development across governorates, and develop and qualify national human resources to promote social protection. To accelerate the achievement of Oman Vision 2040, we launched several national programs, including the National Employment Program, which aims to create job opportunities for job seekers, as well as the National Program for Economic Diversification, which broadens the productive base, and the National Program for Fiscal Sustainability. And we have ranked first among Gulf countries in sustainable public sector financing through the funding of environmentally targeted projects. Madam Chair, we have accorded particular attention to enhancing the efficiency of social spending and improving quality basic services, especially in areas of education, health, and social housing. This is complemented by the development of government support programs that contribute to strengthening social stability and achieving social inclusion and sustainable growth. In conclusion, we reaffirm our commitment to continuing our cooperation with international partners and supporting UN efforts to achieve inclusive social development, promote social justice, and build more equitable and sustainable societies for present and future generations. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Oman, and I now give the floor to the representative of Bulgaria.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bulgaria answers up with the statement made on behalf of the EU.
Strongly with the priority theme of this session, which underscores that advancing social development and social justice effectively requires coordinated, equitable and inclusive policies across sectors. We place particular emphasis on meaningful youth participation as a cross-cutting driver of effective policy making, recognizing young people not only as beneficiaries but as partners in shaping solutions. An example of this approach is the Bulgarian UN Youth Delegate Program, which is now approaching its 20th anniversary. In this spirit, I have the pleasure to give the floor to this year's Bulgarian Youth Delegate, Vera Trifonova and Viktor Tsvetanov, who will share their perspective and concrete recommendation. Please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. We are honored to address the Commission for Social Development at its 64th session and to represent the voice of the Bulgarian youth today. Policies shape lives, and our future depends on how choices across sectors come together in practice. Recently, we carried out Bulgaria's most representative national youth survey among 2,500 young people. Quality education emerged as the leading priority, highlighting a need for an agile approach to narrow the persistent gaps between education systems and young people realities. Meaningful progress in education advances social justice through coordinated and inclusive policies. According to the Global Education Monitoring Report by UNESCO and the UN Youth Office, only 1 in 3 countries has formal mechanisms in place to engage young people or students in education decision-making processes. One concrete way to move towards more responsive and inclusive education systems is to amplify students' voice by strengthening and empowering student councils in schools and universities. One area where this responsiveness becomes particularly evident is health education in schools, which lays the foundation for resilient care and support systems across physical, mental, and social well-being. Research from the Medical University of Varna shows that over 90% of students in Bulgaria would attend health education classes if they were delivered by medical professionals, pointing to the need for closer links between education systems and the healthcare sector. This is where young medical professionals come in, bringing perspectives and expertise that could drive meaningful change. Yet broader systemic constraints within the healthcare sector continue to limit their ability to fully contribute to this reform. Creating enabling conditions for their meaningful inclusion in education and health policy processes is therefore key, not only to strengthening health education, but also to building resilient healthcare systems and supporting sustainable development across generations. I now pass the floor to my co-delegate.
Madam Chair, sustainable development demands dignity for all, including those in extreme poverty. The universality of human rights and justice is rooted in the UN Charter, the preamble of which places justice and faith in fundamental human rights side by side. Alongside education and health, poverty and rule of law also emerged as crucial topics in our nationwide survey, showing that Bulgarian youth view weak institutions as obstacles to social prosperity. Addressing these concerns requires coordinated actions in accordance with the current topic of the Commission for Social Development. The Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights highlights that poverty is both a cause and a consequence of a range of mutually reinforcing human rights violations, creating a vicious cycle of vulnerability, conflict, and exploitation that only effective justice and social systems can break. For young people, a coordinated approach involves 3 steps. First, designing social protection and care systems with the meaningful participation of young people, especially those from marginalized groups. Second, empowering local institutions, schools, social services, municipalities, to provide multilateral support without competence gaps. Third, ensuring access to justice through youth-friendly complaint mechanisms for rights on paper to become rights in practice. We urge member states to take coordinated action with a youth perspective. By empowering young voices in student councils, health education, social protection, and justice mechanisms, we can unlock the full potential of an entire generation. An investment in equitable and just policies is an investment in a future where no one is left behind. A future where young people are empowered to participate, to innovate, and to lead. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the permanent representative of Bulgaria and the youth delegates from Bulgaria, and I now give the floor to the deputy permanent representative of Fiji.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, at the outset, Fiji wishes to congratulate you, Madam Chair, and those in your team for the manner in which the 64th session of the Commission is being conducted. Fiji wishes to align its statement with the G77 and China as delivered by Uruguay. The theme for this session, advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, inclusive policies, requires a holistic approach. This theme reflects Fiji's national development priorities and our shared commitment to inclusive and sustainable growth. Social development and social justice are central to national building and are firmly reflected in Fiji's National Development Plan 2025 to 2029 and Vision 2050. Our development plan prioritizes inclusive growth, poverty reduction, and equitable access to quality services. The plan supports a people-centered, rights-based approach that strengthens social protection, promotes gender equality and social inclusion, while ensuring a coordinated delivery across government, particularly the most vulnerable. Madam Chair, as a small island developing state in the Pacific, these priorities are further shaped by exposure to climate change and disaster risk, reinforcing the need for resilient and adaptive social systems that leaves no one behind. The government of Fiji has prioritized the strengthening of its social protection system as a key instrument for poverty reduction, inequality mitigation, and social inclusion. This work is guided by a whole-of-government approach with strong coordination across social protection, access to quality health services, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, provision of decent work and economic growth, support to MISMIS, public-private partnership. In the past 5 fiscal years, Fiji has invested more than 7 billion Fijian dollars towards poverty alleviation initiatives across government. Further, the government has progressively expanded social assistance programs for older persons, persons with disabilities, women, children, vulnerable families, and those affected by economic and climate-related shocks. Recognizing the multidimensional nature of poverty, Fiji is strengthening integrated service delivery through digital transformation, improved management information system, and enhanced data access across government. Beyond protection, Fiji is increasingly linking social assistance with economic inclusion initiatives, including livelihood support, skills development, and employment pathways, particularly for women and youth, to support sustainable pathways out of poverty. While progress has been made, Fiji acknowledges ongoing challenges, including fiscal constraints, rising living costs, and increasing climate impacts and natural disasters. Addressing these challenges will require innovation, strong partnerships, and sustained international cooperation. Fiji therefore emphasizes the importance of global solidarity, technical assistance and capacity building, and regional, including South-South and triangular cooperation in accelerating progress towards the achievement of SDGs. Partnership, as informed in the Sevilla Compromiso, the 54 last year, is equally central. Madam Chair, in closing, Fiji reaffirms its commitment to advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies that promote dignity, resilience, and opportunity for all. We look forward to continued collaboration with member states and partners to build future-ready social protection systems that respond to the evolving needs of our people. Nawaliona, thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Fiji, and I now give the floor to the representative of Belize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Belize aligns with the statement delivered by Uruguay on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. I therefore have the honor to deliver this statement in our national capacity at the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development, convened under the priority theme of advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies. Belize welcomes this timely focus on the resolution adopted by the General Assembly 80/5 to support the least developed countries and small island developing states. For small island developing states, coordinated policy is not an abstract concept. It is the difference between support that reaches a family in time and support that arrives too late. It is also the difference between services that exist in law and services that are accessible in practice, particularly for rural communities, coastal towns, women and girls, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous communities. Belize has made steady progress in expanding social protection coverage while setting clear and ambitious targets to accelerate inclusion. Through its flagship social assistance program, Building Opportunities for Social Transformation, BOOST, Belize currently supports approximately 1,763 households and 4,336 direct beneficiaries nationwide, including over 1,000 older persons and 200 persons with disabilities, with women comprising the majority of beneficiaries. Building on this foundation, the National Social Protection Policy and Strategy outlines a clear pathway to expand access to at least one social protection program from 32% to 66% of the population by 2030, while significantly scaling social assistance coverage for those in need. It positions BOOST as a central instrument for achieving national coverage and progressively strengthening income security across the life cycle, to closing remaining coverage gaps so that no one is left behind. Allow me, Madam Chair, then to highlight 4 specific areas where Belize is advancing this direction. First, strengthening coordinated and shock-responsive social protection through a wraparound service model. Belize continues to deliver targeted social assistance while advancing a family-centered wraparound service model that places households, not programs, at the center of service delivery. This approach recognizes that income support alone is insufficient. Cash and in-kind assistance are increasingly linked to health service, education, psychological care, unemployment, or livelihood pathways. The National Draft Social Protection Strategy emphasizes coordinated delivery systems, shared data, and institutional collaboration to enable timely, dignified, and scalable response. Second, advancing equitable and universal access to healthcare as a core element of social justice. We continue to advance our commitment to ensuring that every Belizean have access to high-quality, affordable, and efficient healthcare services. Through our National Health Insurance Program, Belizeans are now able to access essential primary healthcare while significantly reducing financial barriers to care. Third, promoting gender equality and women economic empowerment as drivers of inclusive growth. Belize is guided by our revised national gender policy, which prioritizes women economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, and access to decent work in both urban and rural areas. Women remain overrepresented in informal and low-income activities and continue to shoulder a disproportionate burden of unpaid care work. Last year, Belize closed enhancing and economic empowerment of women in Latin America and the Caribbean in the COVID-19 post-pandemic era, technical assistance for women employment, entrepreneurship, and financial inclusion, which resulted in more than 2,000 women being impacted and 350 new women-led startup businesses. Fourth, Belize has taken steps to strengthen legal and institutional protection for persons with disabilities through the Disabilities Bill, which promotes the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities, ensuring non-discriminatory and equal access to health care, education, and employment, among other areas. Madam Chair, at the multilateral level, Belize values the role of the Commission in advancing policy coherence and practical solutions grounded in national realities. For SIDS, coordinated national efforts must be matched by predictable international support, technical cooperation, and financing approaches that recognize our special vulnerabilities and limited fiscal space. Belize remains committed to working with ECOSOC, the United Nations system, and member states to advance social development and social justice, and to ensure that those furthest behind are reached first. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the representative of Belize, and I now give the floor to the representative of Togo.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the delegation lends itself with the statement made by Liberia and Uruguay, respectively, on behalf of the African Group and G77 in China, and would like to make several comments in our national capacity. Madam Chair, Togo supports the mandate of the Commission on Social Development, which aims to promote public policies that strengthen social justice, reduce inequalities, and place human beings at the heart of development strategies. Social development, when it is equitable, is a priority for my country, and that is why Togo once again welcomes the Doha Political Declaration, which is based upon a comprehensive vision that combines economic development, social justice, and environmental sustainability. For several years now, Togo has been committed to strengthening its integrated social policies to foster universal access to essential services, especially education, healthcare, social protection, decent work, and the inclusion of vulnerable groups. Despite the outstanding progress achieved in certain sectors, the government of Togo is amplifying its efforts to address structural inequalities that limit economic and social opportunities for marginalized groups. Togo is also striving to overcome difficulties linked to resilient and sustainable financing for social protection systems, especially during external shocks, and is strengthening the intersectoral coordination of public policies to avoid fragmenting our social actions. Madam Chair, in an international context characterized by growing vulnerability, my delegation would like to briefly share with you several good practices that we have been implementing on the government level that are linked to the priority theme of this session. First of all, we are implementing our national social inclusion program, an expanded version that aims to reduce inequalities in access to basic services in rural and urban areas. In this initiative, the government strengthens its social protection strategy through social priorities that are focused on cash transfers as well as school lunch programs. More than 53,000 vulnerable households have thus benefited from direct cash transfers, and almost 450,000 primary school students are receiving school meals. Next, based on the experience of health insurance for public agents initiated in 2011, our universal health insurance program established in 2021 is a reality now for several socio-professional categories. By the end of June 2024, it has covered more than 900,000 students. We also have the program called WEZU, dedicated to women's health for pregnant women and for newborns, and has already benefited almost 455,000 women. Thirdly, social dialogue platforms have been expanded to bring together public authorities, social partners, youth organizations, and civil society to establish in an inclusive manner adapted solutions for local realities. In addition, when it comes to education and training, we have made major efforts to guarantee equitable access to high-quality education, to reduce regional disparities, and to promote lifelong learning. We are focusing on youth employability with targeted programs for professional training, including entrepreneurship and creating economic opportunity. In addition, the promotion of social development requires coordinated public policies. Therefore, we have strengthened our planning mechanism as well as our evaluation and follow-up measures to ensure better coordination between sectoral policies and the SDGs. The participation of local communities and civil society, as well as the private sector, are a key driver for guaranteeing the relevance and effectiveness of these measures. In Togo, we are convinced that real social justice cannot be achieved without coherent, coordinated policies and by paying attention to the most vulnerable groups. Therefore, we are focusing on combating gender-based violence, protecting children, promoting the rights of older persons, and strengthening resilience of communities when it comes to climate and economic shocks. Madam Chair, we remain convinced that social justice, true justice, cannot be achieved without inclusive policies, and in this regard, strengthening international cooperation, as well as South-South partnerships and triangular partnerships, remain vital for accelerating the implementation of the Copenhagen Declaration, the Doha Declaration, and 2030 Agenda. To do this, Togo reaffirms its commitment to working together with all stakeholders to build more just, equitable, and resilient societies. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Togo. We have just heard the last speaker in the general discussion for this afternoon. The Commission has thus concluded its program of work for this meeting. The general discussion will resume tomorrow at 3 p.m. I would also like to remind delegations that tomorrow at 10 a.m. the Commission will resume its consideration of Agenda Item 3C to hold a panel discussion on emerging issues. I thank all delegations. The meeting is adjourned.